I'm Greg Powell, and this is Investors Insights.
You're listening to Investors Insights with the wealth consultants at Five Plan Partners. Now here's Greg Powell and Ashley Page.
Rolling in 3, 2.
Hey, thanks for joining us today and welcome to Investor Insights for July 11th, 2014. We're excited to have you with us. I'm honored to be with Ashley Page, and today we're going to be talking about quantitative easing and the Fed taking away the punch bowl, a historic time.
It is indeed.
And with that, I also want to encourage you to subscribe to our podcast and vlogs, because then as we come out with this information, you will automatically get it and won't have to be searching and looking on our website, although you can subscribe on our website. And because we can give you this information you want, it also allows you to be cutting edge on top of changing events as information comes out and how it applies to you. How does it impact your portfolio? How does it impact the markets? And also in relation to the economy and your lifestyle, how does it impact you? So thanks again, and let's start our discussion now on quantitative easing and the Fed taking away the punch bowl. Ashley, these are historic times.
Oh, Greg, they are. And Greg and I are voracious history readers, so that's important to us.
Yeah,
and
we're living history.
We
as
are.
we speak.
We both feel like that there are important lessons to take from that. And of course, it was an historic entry into
Sure.
quantitative easing post-2008. We had never seen it before.
Right.
It'll be an historic exit in October.
Right.
And really the first time, truly in November, will be the first time they won't do any bond purchases at all.
But yesterday they announced that they were going to stop the bond buying.
Exactly.
And that changes the whole dynamics. And so I think it was the great hockey player Wayne Gretzky who said, you know, or he was asked, why are you such a great hockey player? And he said, because I go where the puck is going to be.
Absolutely.
And I think what we're seeing here, the Fed is telling us that we're going to see things in October. Good
You're
chance
right.
of that.
Absolutely. And what Greg and I were both talking about, you know, this has gone on for nearly 6 years now. That's not an insignificant percentage of anyone's life.
Right.
I know I've worked with Greg and Franklin, the portfolio team, going in my 5th year. Every day since I've been here has been a quantitative easing
Oh,
event
wow,
of
that's
some
well
point.
said. Yeah, you're right.
And then my daughter Caroline's about to graduate from college. Pretty much quantitative easing went on during her entire college career.
Sure, sure.
There are a couple of points on that. One is 2008, not surprisingly, was a major event. We all know that.
Oh, yeah, in more ways than one.
It was a liquidity event, first of all.
Sure.
It was a mortgage stabilization rate. I mean, you can look at
Test of our financial system.
no doubt about it. We hadn't seen it since the Great Depression. So, as Sir Isaac Newton would say, equal and opposite reaction. That was a big reaction, and it needed an opposite reaction to fix it.
Sure.
So, Greg and I what we've debated with Franklin is looking back on it. We feel in total it clearly had a positive impact.
Yes.
We don't think there's any doubt about that. It kept the economy stabilized
Right.
to the point it could grow again.
Sure.
But Franklin, Greg, and I sort of broke each year apart because we both feel, or three feel, I should say, that that's how academics are probably going to look at it.
Right. Well, it'll be analyzed for years to come.
Oh, it will. You know, there are going to be a lot of textbooks on it and PhD dissertations,
Right.
you name it. I mean, this is a major event in
Sure.
our financial markets. Greg, Franklin, and I feel that the first 2 years had huge impact positively. As Greg will tell you, what is so good about our system with the Federal Reserve is we can pump a lot of liquidity into the system very fast.
Yes.
And with that quantitative easing, so I think we would both agree, and Franklin would too, that 2008 was important for a liquidity event.
Sure.
We had to have it, as Greg said, the economy would have locked up. It's like trying to operate your automotive engine without oil.
Well, we could have
It's
seen
gonna
another
happen.
depression. I mean, Bernanke,
Clearly.
to his credit, academic, you know, his specialty was on the depression. He was the right man at the right time.
He was,
or
fortunately.
at least based on where we are today.
Absolutely, that's an excellent
History
point.
may judge him differently down the road
Yep.
because there's ramifications that can come from so much money being printed.
Absolutely, that's an excellent point on him. And as Greg will also tell you, in addition, not only was he good at that because of his academic background, that's an excellent point, but who he had behind him then, Janet Yellen, who is Fed chairwoman now, was really the COO architect
That's
of
true.
quantitative easing.
Right, yeah, you're right about
So
that.
really, if you look at it in basketball terms, Bernanke was a great starter and she was a great bench player.
Sure, yeah.
Because not only did she serve as COO during that time, but as Greg knows well, prior to that, she had been the president of the San Francisco Fed, the largest Fed district outside of New York.
Right.
A lot on the ground, as Greg would say, boots on the ground experience in Janet Yellen.
Right.
We think that's another reason why she's transitioned so well.
Oh, I agree totally with that.
So he is exactly right. The 2008 event was a liquidity event. Nobody could understand that better and faster than Bernanke can.
Sure.
Then Greg Franklin, I feel like when you got to 2009, that made a huge impact.
Yeah, and talk about that, because you've done some great research on this or analysis. So
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, that's Greg's point is right on, spot on with Bernanke on 2008, the liquidity. 2009, that made a major difference in our mind because the mortgage market got stabilized. It was really out of whack. If you remember all the foreclosure signs and everything else, we had to move all that excess inventory off. Only by stabilizing the mortgage rates and keeping those low could you get that system going again.
Right.
So we would argue that 2008, very impactful liquidity. We'd argue 2009, very impactful in the mortgage market.
Right.
Really 10, 11, and 12 really were more of a support of an underperforming economy.
Mm-hmm.
They were important, they did well. And as Greg will tell you, that really went to consumer confidence. It kept people confident enough and in the game enough that when it started to move back up, it was good.
Right, and in fairness, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, I mean, because this is unrehearsed, but basically, quantitative easing probably would have worked even faster, but because of the debates between the president and Congress and all the things that were going on, about the time it would pick up steam, then something would take air out of it. So it probably has taken it longer just because of tensions.
Excellent point. It's a political animal. The Federal Reserve's a political animal, and as Greg said, that's right. The initial fear from, well, some Republicans and Democrats was that if you threw that much liquidity in the system, it would be hyperinflation, much like Brazil.
Overnight.
Overnight.
Sure.
And I mean, so there were at least some valid intellectual arguments. And when you go back in hindsight, people were looking at what that would be going forward with no experience. Sure. Those were probably valid arguments. Right. But candidly, the liquidity in the mortgage situation was so bad, we almost didn't have a choice. And so looking at that in hindsight, what we're thrilled about, of course, is that the fundamental systemic economy can operate well now without it. Sure. And as Greg will tell you, beginning this year, the Fed knows that. They've started to reduce, not stop, but they've started to reduce the amount they're buying each month. So when they're tapering that down, October will be when that ends.
That's correct.
That'll be really kind of the last one. And when we hit November, guess what? No bond purchases.
Sure.
That will be a good thing. Now, Greg and I, going forward, what does that mean going forward?
Talk about that.
Greg and I, back early in our career, were former commercial lenders at banks in downtown Birmingham. We both started our career there. Glad we did.
Oh, yeah,
Greg
great experience.
It was. Greg managed public finance for one bank, and my rival competitive bank across the street, I was in the capital markets group. However, the Federal Reserve is something we watched all the time because the Federal Reserve would move the interest rate and control the economy up and down with the federal funds rate.
Right.
Greg tracked it, I tracked it. Yeah. It was just like cutting a light switch on and off. The impact for the Federal Reserve and for our economy going forward, it's pretty clear that interest rates probably late 2015, maybe beyond, will start to rise. But what's happened is the Federal Reserve have bought these bonds, the size of their own balance sheet has really ballooned. It's gone from about $900 billion, I think, Greg, in 2008,
right,
up to about $4 trillion now. And it's like Greg and I were talking before.
Big difference.
And they can't sell it back.
Right.
So you've got a massive balance sheet in the Federal Reserve now. So what's fascinating to Greg and me as former commercial lenders is that the toolbox for interest rate control going forward is going to have to be different. And a lot of that...
Which makes it historic even more.
In itself, yeah. So this is going to keep going, keep going. The Fed funds rate used to be the main control. Now, it'll be part of the arsenal, but the Federal Reserve, not to get too technical, is going to have to use reverse repos. Not important that you understand that.
Yeah, but if you get a chance, Google that.
Yeah,
we can do it. And also, if you'd like for us to explain it, send us an email, contact us, and we'll do a vlog or podcast on that topic.
And we will, and the Fed governors now, a lot of the overnight borrowing rates, when member banks put deposits with the Fed, they're going to probably start controlling that rate more. But the overarching point is, coming out of the back of all of this quantitative easing, there's a mechanical and execution issue for the Fed on raising interest rate that has not been there before.
That's correct.
So again, equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
You know, you just can't go through something that major. It is exciting, however, to see it end, because it means that we've got fundamental strength in the markets, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, the Fed's looking at the data and feels like confidence is there.
Absolutely.
We did a vlog just recently in which we talked about unemployment.
Yes.
Unemployment's getting almost to the level I think at 0.3%. We'll now see full employment in the eyes of
Where the Fed likes it. Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of positives that are taking place. Now, are there any negatives? Well, let me say this: there are no guarantees. But one reason I love this industry, and Ashley does too, is that we enjoy putting the pieces of the puzzle together to see how it comes in play. But with this now, with the quantitative easing ending, we very well then could start seeing some steam come out of the stock market.
Oh, yeah.
Because all of a sudden, if rates start to move up, there's another option to go into versus that on the stock market. That doesn't mean that it's a guarantee, and we're not making that recommendation by any means. What we are saying, though, is it needs to be watched.
It does.
It needs to be watched. Also for corporate America and for individuals that are out there thinking about borrowing money, that timetable of these low interest rates will start to change. Actually, talked about forecasting, right now may very well be into next year before we see some kind of change in interest rates. Right. But if you're thinking about those scenarios in your personal portfolio or economic situation, or on a corporate level in your business, then that
probably a good time.
It is, very much so. So these are ways that this decision that the Fed has just announced, and keep in mind it was an announcement that's probably going to officially take place in October, as the rippling effect of decision starts to grab hold and get everybody's attention. These are things that you may very well start to see come into play, and that's where we come up with the recommendations when we contact you as a client. And for those of you that aren't clients and you're not having this conversation, and in fact, I'm proud of the fact we're doing the vlog and podcast today, right after the announcements have been made, and to be able to bring you up to date. If your financial advisor is not contacting you about these type of situations occurring, then please give us a call.
Absolutely.
Because we want you to understand that, if you're working with us, we want to keep you ahead of the game, not only with the information, but the strategies that can be used in your financial blueprint as well as in your portfolio.
Skate to where the puck is going to go.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Stay ahead of the game.
You got it.
So, and Ashley and I both were the same age, and we remember vividly when we were in college that this country had double-digit interest rates in 78, 79, 80, and 81. Yes. That was historic, and there we were in that time period. And so guess what, though? This country got through it, and we are now seeing a time period after 2008. We're going to get through this as well and work our way through. So as we like to say here, your independence matters to us, and we're definitely an independent firm with a lot of information to provide you. So thanks again for joining us. Hope you've gotten a lot of information out of this, and we'll look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.
More information at fiplanpartners.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC.